A life well lived can take on so many different meanings for a really wide variety of people. When I think about that phrase, the first thing I think of is how grateful I am to work for an organization that sees to people's basic needs. Obviously, without food and medical attention and transportation, socialization, life is pretty grim and pretty skeletal.
I think a life well lived involves balancing the three main pillars of family, community, and career. Well, they're very interconnected in that as you devote yourself to your family, you really have to have the support of a strong community to help build a strong family. To build a strong community, you have to be willing to do your part to give back to the community and get involved and look for ways to benefit the community. To have the means to do that, you have to build a strong career that provides the stability and the means with which to support your community and your family.
When I think about a life well lived, I think of a person who has served their purpose in life. I feel like everybody that has been placed on this earth has a purpose. It could be in education, it could be helping people, helping children, helping seniors. But when I think about that, once you reach that stage in your life, if you can look back and say, I have fulfilled my purpose, I can honestly say I believe that that is something that I think a person would think that that's a life well lived.
I also have to realize that a life well lived for me and for a number of other people requires a lot of intellectual fulfillment. I think it's a fairly poor life that isn't populated with philosophy and history and literature and the arts. And so I feel so fortunate to be able to work every day with people who crave those same things in their lives.
That sense of purpose is what keeps you going day to day. Personally for me, I can honestly lay my head down at night and say I helped somebody. I feel my sense of purpose today. I did something good in the world today, especially with the climate and everything that is going on. It's just great to help people and be there for somebody with whatever they may need. So,
good afternoon, and thank you for joining us virtually this year as we honor three legends of our community with the Senior Citizens Incorporated Life Well Lived Award. Normally, we would have had an in-person luncheon to recognize these leaders and their accomplishments. But if one word could describe 2020, it definitely would not be normally. We were able to have a socially distanced drive-by salute and award ceremony last week with our honorees, and you're going to get to see and hear from parts of that this evening. So sit back, grab your popcorn, and get ready to celebrate our amazing honorees.
I'm Becky Kitely, and I'm the chair of this year's Senior Citizens Legends, Leaders, and Life Well Lived. And I'm also a member of the Board of Directors of Senior Citizens. I want to welcome all of you here and thank you for being here. We're delighted that you could join us today, and we're going to celebrate 3 inspiring leaders today: Ms. Dolores Washington, Mr. Eric Meyerhoff, and Mr. Arnold Tenenbaum. And you all, as you all know, we lost both Eric and Arnold earlier this year, but their legacy lives on. You're going to learn a lot more about each of these leaders this morning as the program continues, and you're going to see examples of how they truly are leaders and how their life has been well lived. So after the presentation this morning, please stay and join us for a small reception. And at this point, I'd like to introduce the board chair, Susan Hancock.
Thanks, Becky. Good morning. That was exciting. On behalf of the board, I just want to congratulate these honorees and thank you, Mrs. Washington, and for the others, your families, for being here. This has been an interesting adventure, to say the least. We usually, of course, would be gathered at a luncheon with about 300 people to salute these honorees, but I thought our drive-by turned out pretty well. So, and then we'll be doing a virtual watch party on October 1st, so people can see the video of these wonderful lives. We couldn't do anything successfully with fundraising without our corporate sponsors, and they were listed on the drive-by banner, but the main ones were Queensboro National Bank and Trust, Coal Management Company, and Kathy and Philip Solomon. So certainly thanks to them. And thanks to Becky. Patty and I took Becky to lunch earlier in the year, long before we knew what COVID was, and asked her if she would chair the luncheon, and she agreed, and she has been such a trooper. So thank you, Becky, for doing what you didn't know was going to happen. 60 years ago, a man named, really 61 now, a man named Nippy Morrison recognized that our community needed to help people age more successfully. And so began this legacy of a life well lived for people and why we are here today. And it's because of Nippy and his vision that over 10,000 older adults and their families are served each year by this organization that he founded, Senior Citizens. So it's very exciting. Patty's going to talk about our honorees and a little bit more about the organization in her remarks, but I just want to say that I personally had the privilege of knowing Arnold Tenenbaum from my years at United Way. And I will never forget and am so grateful for our last visit. We were both stuck on a layover in Atlanta at the airport, trying to get to Savannah, and we had the best chat just a few years ago. And for that, just the two of us. He was flying by himself and I was flying by myself, and we saw each other immediately and sat down and chatted, and I will always be thankful for that. I'll never forget making corporate calls for United Way. I always loved to go to Chatham Steel because I knew it was going to be entertaining. I was going to see his latest art that he'd bought, and it was just always good. And so I remember in my leadership at Savannah days when he was talking about Vision 2020, and here we are in 2020. So for that, I'll always be grateful. And I was a longtime member of the Savannah Rotary Club, Savannah East Rotary Club, and spent my Fridays with Eric. And nobody had a bigger smile and more positive attitude than Eric. So for both of those men, it was an honor, and they truly had a life well lived. And Mrs. Washington, I just met you today, but I can tell by your fan club and all the people that drove by to salute you, what a great, wonderful life well lived. My grandmother lived to be 103, and I learned so much from her and her life about faith and family and friends and food. But the most important thing is she was truly an example of a life well lived. And I've always said, may we all aspire to have our life well lived, and for people to remember our legacy and for us to keep that going. So for these honorees today, the ones we've honored in the past and the ones we'll honor in the future, we thank them for a life well lived, and it may be a challenge to each of us for our lives to be well lived. I'm going to turn it over to Patty, and we look forward to continuing to celebrate.
Well, thank you, Susan and Becky, and thank all of you for being here for this celebration. As Susan said, our mission is to help people age successfully. And for 60 plus years, we have walked hand in hand with this community to develop programs and services that will do just that. Our Meals on Wheels program, the Learning Center, our in-home services, as well as the Ruth Bick Adult Daytime Care Center are just a few of those programs that we provide to make it possible for people to have the 4 columns of their life work so well. And those are mind, body, spirit, and community. Every day, our Meals on Wheels program prepares and delivers 1,800 meals to seniors throughout a 4-county region. We provide not only a great tasting meal, which is important, but it's also a daily wellness check, as well as social interaction, which is critical, particularly during this time of COVID-19. The Learning Center continues to provide more than 60 mind-enriching courses, classes, and lectures to its 600-plus students, but now we're doing it virtually. We'd like to take a moment to kind of fill you in on what we are doing during this challenging time of COVID-19. Today, we would love to be celebrating the completion of our own building project, the Center for Successful Aging. But instead, we've had to rise to a new challenge. Like our award winners, Senior Citizens Incorporated believes in bringing people together. But how do you do that when you need to be physically apart? The Learning Center is Savannah's premier humanities-based program for seniors. But how do you lecture to a vulnerable community while maintaining social distance? Through video lectures, we've been able to offer enriching programs to our members. Meals on Wheels is a lifeline for seniors, not only delivering fresh, nutritious meals, but a friendly face to be there for them every day. Today, that friendly face is still there, accented with a mask. We've adapted our home health services to ensure the safety of our seniors. And while we can't gather at the new and expanded Ruth Bick Adult Day Health Center or at any of our neighborhood centers, we are able to bring that same programming to our seniors virtually. When we're able to come together again, we look forward to showing you the Center for Successful Aging, which will be here for the next 60 years. But until that time, we're going to continue to find ways to help people age successfully. Well, you all are our first event. So you should recognize that porte-cochere there. And while it is the concept of helping people age successfully that drives our actions every day, it is our mission, our vision that brings us here today. Our vision has always been that all of us would be able to say that we had a life well lived. And it sounds simple, but really what does that mean? Is it all the places that you get to visit? Is it the job that you may have had, your family, the ways you've physically transformed the community around you? It means a different thing to every one of us. And so when we went to the public and asked them to nominate someone, we didn't tell them what the parameters were. We just said, tell us about someone that you feel exemplifies what it means to have a life well lived. And as in previous years, we were amazed by the nominations. Not just the number, but the quality, the stories. And thankfully, it's the job of the executive committee of our board of directors to make that decision who gets the award, not mine. But without a doubt, Eric Meyerhoff, Arnold Tannenbaum, and Ms. Dolores with an E, Washington, while taking different paths in their life, truly personify what it means to have a life well lived. Each one has built a life around service to others, and they have strived and they have succeeded in making our community a better place by adding to its beauty and its goodness. In a few minutes, we're going to get to see the 2020 awardee video, but I wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about our awardees, and I'm pulling information from their nomination as well as our experience when we talk to people about them. So Eric Meyerhoff was a diehard Florida Gator fan. Together with his partner, Robert Gunn, they transformed our riverfront when they proposed Rusacas Plaza so that people would have a place to gather. They would meet every morning at 10 a.m. at the Azalea Room at Levy's department store, and rumor has it that every one of their designs began on a doily from that store. Eric also shared his talents by bringing the African American Monument as well as the World War II Monument, which resides on Riverfront, to fruition. These were labors of love for Eric. But his architectural contributions across Savannah are only one of the small ways that this person made a difference. He lived a life of service and a life of acceptance. In his nomination form, his wife Harriet wrote, "At 91 years old, Eric remains an inspiration to his family and to everyone who has known him." Arnold Tenenbaum was known for his devotion, vision, selflessness, and of course his deep love for his family, business, community, and vanilla ice cream. He was a humble gentleman who constantly sought to improve the community, and he never sought the spotlight, but when it did find him, he made sure that everyone that was involved in whatever project he was being recognized for was thanked and appreciated. He gave generously of his time, treasure, and talent to help our community's arts, education, as well as social services. What struck me when we were interviewing people for the video, not a single person mentioned his obvious business acumen as the first thing. What they said was it was how he made every person he came in contact feel special. And then, of course, his love and belief in community civic service. Another person who believed in service was Miss Dolores Washington. After 12 years as an inner city elementary school teacher, she decided that she would become a media specialist so that she could help students with her real passion, which is reading. As her niece told us, quote, "She embraced the philosophy that through reading, rich or poor, black or white, retained or not, students could succeed if they mastered the art of reading." She used her media center to propel students forward to explore, research, and prepare for careers in education, social work, business, and sports. This was only one of the many ways that she used her considerable energy throughout her life to influence others to be their best selves, which always included helping others directly. One of her students was Gator Rivers, who went on to become a Harlem Globetrotter. And what you don't know is that Mr. Rivers used to volunteer regularly for us at our Ruth Vick Adult Daytime Care Center. And I remember him telling me that the reason he did that, taught older adults how to spin a ball on their finger, was that he had a teacher, Mrs. Washington, who instilled in him that no matter what he did, he was obligated to give back. And it really wasn't until I was working with Tim and we were pulling this video together that I put it all together that he was talking about our Mrs. Washington. So let's watch a video about these three amazing people. True leaders elevate everyone around them, and we are so fortunate to be able to honor three of these legends today. Savannah native Dolores J. Washington advocated for children as a teacher, for parishioners as a faithful church worker, and for everyone she knows as a trusted friend. Eric Meyerhoff helped to transform Savannah, and without his efforts, one of the South's premier tourist locations would be unrecognizable. And if Arnold Tenenbaum never became involved in civic life, he would be known as the titan of industry. But because of his tireless efforts, everyone will remember him as a champion of the city and the communities he loved. Unfortunately, we lost Eric and Arnold earlier this year, but along with Dolores, all three have inspired, and all are the epitome of life's well lived. Dolores J. Washington is well known across Chatham County for her 32 years in education, but that wasn't her original plan.
My primary aim at that time was to become a nurse. But I had an experience that changed my mind about nursing. And the sight of all that blood changed my mind. And so then I decided I wanted to become a teacher.
After 8 years as a 6th grade teacher, her love of English steered her into a new role.
I decided I wanted to be able to touch more children of different grades. So I went into media. In those days, we called them school librarians. And I did my other 24 years there.
While she's proud of her East Side Savannah roots, along with her late husband, Dolores decided to see the country.
We wanted to visit the 48 states. At that time it was 48. By the time he passed, we had done 46, but we then had 50 states. So I vowed I was going to do, the others, and I did.
And what was her favorite state? Alaska.
There was just so much in Alaska to see that I didn't get to see, and I was hoping I could get back there, but that was my favorite place, I think. And I like out west. It's beautiful out west. The other one would be the Grand Canyon.
Her demeanor, I think, is one of the things that has helped her to maintain her life and be as agile as she is.
For someone to be 90 years old and still moving and still involved in certain activities, yeah, she is highly respected all over the county and also in her church.
For another Savannah native, Arnold Tannenbaum's career path must have seemed more direct as the oldest in his generation of the Tannenbaum family to run Chatham Steel.
He was a good leader for a family business. Having a family business of 3 different families is not easy. But he did a great job, of leading and also keeping the family close and tight.
You do kind of what you're dealt, and it was a good hand with a lot of opportunity, and fortunately I understood that, and I had some capabilities, and it worked. There was a lot of family, and for us it was a strength, but we were very much aware that there were a lot of people watching what was happening.
A smart businessman might tell you that time is money. And if that's true, then the way Arnold gave of his time to his friends, family, and the community would make him one of the most generous people you would ever hope to meet.
You just always felt like Arnold was giving to you. And so for me, I was always strategizing on how to give back to him. The proverbial, what do you give the man who has everything? And the only thing Arnold ever really sought was friendship. And so that's what I gave him.
He never asked for anything. All he wanted was the community to be successful. He was never, with Arnold, it was never about himself. It was more about the we, of how all of us could come together.
And that's why I say, when I think about my relationship with him, I think it was special. But I know every single person who knows him, who knew him, felt like they had this very unique, special relationship with him. And for making so many people live their life more fully, he's amazing.
As a gifted architect, Eric Meyerhoff helped to shape the Savannah we know today, but his story didn't begin here.
Dad was born in Arolsen, Germany in 1929, and that was quite a bleak time in the world's history, them being a Jewish family, and started to experience the rise of anti-Semitism there. And his father, my grandfather, realized that things were getting really bad and that they needed to make a decision to get out.
The Meyerhoff family found its way to Jacksonville, Florida, and Eric would eventually enroll at the University of Florida, where he would form a friendship that would come to define his professional career.
And Eric, of course, it's hard to talk about Eric Meyerhoff without also talking about Bob Gunn, because you almost heard it as one word, Gunn and Meyerhoff.
I didn't realize until I was probably in middle school or even older that when people were in business together, that was just a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 relationship. I thought that if you were business partners, that you talked on the phone every day, a couple of times a day, even when you weren't at work together, that you had all your holidays together, that you went on vacation together, that you went to football games together.
And they were both Gator fans, and that made their lives together even better. And if they had a good year, everything was great. They had a bad year, there was a lot of excuses.
Like many cities in the early 1970s, Savannah had a growing problem with parking. And one idea to address it might sound crazy to us today, but that is only because of the vision of Gunn and Meyerhoff.
And Bob and Eric got a hold of the Metropolitan Planning Commission's intention on turning the now River Street into a car park. And they went to John Rizakis at the time and they said, hey, you can't do that. This is a beautiful waterfront. You should convert it and make it into a pedestrian zone.
That project transformed this area from a forgotten, overlooked, seedy, scary area to an attraction.
Eric's understanding of how people interact with the built environment helped to give us a place to gather and celebrate Savannah. As for Dolores, while you might expect a teacher to broaden her horizons through travel, her friends warned us that you might not expect a sense of humor that would leave you in stitches.
We always looked to her every year when we had our Christmas social to provide the entertainment for the club. And she would have all of us just laughing with the stories that she would tell. And last time we were together, she still has that knack for telling stories and making people laugh. Oh, I just like making people happy.
And the way that she just embraced them, the smile that she had, that would let them know that Sister Washington is the person that you would like to be around, because she have that sweet spirit about her.
We do things like that with one another. She can be talking to me and says, what I really want. I said, what is it, Dolores? I really want some chocolate. And I was steadily putting on my shoes. And when she said, I want me some chocolate candy, and before she knew it, I was ringing her bell. Went and had the candy in a bag and put it on the end of her mailbox.
The Lord has made it all possible. And I think because one of the things that I've always thought of was treating people like I want to be treated, and in so many ways it's coming back to me now.
Treating others the way you want to be treated also guided Arnold through his involvement with the community. Arnold and his wife Laura Lee gave to Savannah for more than 60 years, and their loss earlier this year is one we continue to mourn.
Arnold was involved in most philanthropic endeavors for any organization that was really worthwhile. He was out there helping to make this a better community in many ways.
I met Arnold Tenenbaum when we were working on Vision 2020, and it was a plan to see where Savannah needed to be. And of course, this was back in the 90s. And we worked very diligently, and you can see some of the things as far as businesses being involved with government, and to see how people can come together as a very diverse city.
There's some people that have these brilliant ideas like Facebook or Google. Well, that's not my gift. My gift, is trying to help hold a small town together and bring factions together and be a diplomat. And that's probably one of the things that I was able to accomplish both in business and in the community life, is to get people to the table. As I said, communication. So that's part of my legacy. And I have wonderful kids, and that's the biggest part of my legacy.
His wife and 4 kids really were what drove him, I think, and as he got older, that became even more important and more critical, and they loved him and adored him. His grandkids always wanted to be around him, and he wanted to be around them.
The uniqueness of the relationship between Arnold and Laura Lee, and how it all started, how they lived their lives for so many decades together, and you know, that when they were done together. And I think that just says, I think that all of us humans strive for the existence that they had together, shared with each other, bestowed upon their family, all of it.
We were blessed to have Eric, and he was blessed to have his wife Harriet, son Mark, and daughter Margot. Eric loved children, and he always insisted on little touches like the tugboat sandbox on River Street, which they referred to as Margot's tugboat.
The tugboat was one thing that just made him smile and makes everybody smile. And he said that kind of was, you know, that was his approach to everything. He was a big kid at heart, and he really just kind of wanted just to make people happy. So I think that like he always added a little twist of a design feature on everything that he did, which kind of brought back his little childhood, which I don't think he was able to have really.
And the one place that he was most verbose was with children. He loved children. And a small child come in his view, that child was going to be gathered up by Eric. And he wasn't shy.
In addition to like the tugboat, you know, for when they got around to remodeling our home, Dad actually built a tree house in between my sister and my rooms with a ladder, and we could climb up the ladder. And inside of it, he painted trees with us. And it was the coolest thing. And all of our friends who came over as kids just remember that to this very day, that, you know, having an architect as a father, he just had this wild mind of, you know, creativity, and it just shined through on everything that he did.
As a Jewish immigrant who escaped the Holocaust, and as an Army veteran himself, it's fitting that Eric's last project is featured on the street that he helped to revitalize.
And Mayor Otis Johnson, in his remarks at the dedication, called this the capstone of Eric Meyerhoff's great career of design projects, and I believe that's true. He had great pride in this project.
I'm glad Eric was a part of my life. And I think those of us who were fortunate enough to have him as a friend were very fortunate people.
Dad was a man of acceptance and just unconditional love for everyone, for his children, for people around him, and for his community. And I just feel that is a side to him that is overlooked for his, you know, professional accomplishments, because he really just accepted people for who they are and was just a fair and decent person, and was always just, you know, trying to help people understand one another. I really do feel like, you know, Dad's upbringing, had to face discrimination as a child, made him so much more of an openly accepting person later in life.
For Dolores J. Washington's advocacy, for how Arnold Tannenbaum championed our community, and for the way Eric Meyerhoff transformed our city, they are our 2020 Life Well Lived Award recipients.
I've tried to balance with work, community, and family, and that's always a challenge, but in the end, that's the secret, I think, to finding the right kind of balance and trying to have fun when you do it, and do it with the values that you hold dear. If you can accomplish that, man, it's been a decent ride.
Well, you can see why we felt like each of these people deserved the Life Well Lived Award. As a part of our Center for Successful Aging expansion, which you're sitting in,
we have set aside a courtyard designated as the Legends, Leaders, and Life Well Lived courtyard. And in this space, our honorees today will join our past recipients, Irene Johnson, Colonel Ed Wexler, Lenny Darden Jr., the late Dick Eckberg, and the late Dr. Les Wilkes, as well as all those who come after them in a permanent way in this courtyard. So now I'd like to ask Susan to come forward, and she's going to give to each of our honorees the Life Well Lived Award. I'm going to give you the first one. This is a custom designed piece by John Poirier for us, who owns Drayton Glass Works. And then I'd love to invite each of you, someone from the families or both, to come forward and say a few remarks if you'd like, and then we'll wrap up. So, Ms. Meyerhoff, let me put on my mask. Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay.
Well, the video is just wonderful. I think everybody should be proud of it who was involved. It's absolutely wonderful, but I think I needed a glass of champagne before I start talking. So I just wanted to say that my children, Mark and Margot, and I want to thank senior citizens for recognizing someone who contributed greatly to Savannah, my late husband, Eric Meyerhoff, who died in May. Mark and Margot were unable to attend at this time to travel, but in their place I have the other half of Gunn and Meyerhoff, Robin Gunn, whose father was a partner with Eric for over 40 years. Together, Eric and Bob were the signature architectural duo in Savannah. Eric the professional. Eric's projects were all unique, such as a fireman's training center in Hawaii and creating the master plan for Kings Bay Naval Base near St. Mary's. And when he was commissioned to design the Fine Arts Building at Armstrong, he actually traveled to New York and toured the infamous Juilliard School of Music to better understand acoustical sound in theater. His early design of the riverfront was sketched on a paper napkin. As it was said earlier, when they went to Levy's for coffee, it was always a doodle on a napkin or a dolly. So that's how the original plan for River Street began. We were on a trip. He ran out of paper napkins at the table, so he had to bring the concept home and work on it on his drawing board. He ran out, well, as I said, he ran out of paper, so he had to really complete and remember the concept while he was traveling. He appreciated contemporary architecture and was given the opportunity to express himself with Chatham Steel, with the Chatham Steel Building, originally owned by Arnold Tenenbaum and family. What a coincidence that they are both remembered here today. He often said that his favorite project was the kids' tugboat on River Street. So we hope that the city will replace it with a permanent one. Eric the man. Eric was a kind and humble person. He loved children, and they connected and gravitated to him. He will be remembered by his great sense of humor and creativity, which Margot and Mark were very lucky to inherit, and for his acceptance of all people. Thank you.
Would anybody from the Tannenbaum family like to sit down there? And I'll go this way this time.
Hi, I'm Ann Tenenbaum, eldest child of Arnold and Lorley. Thank you so much for this lovely award. Dad was talking about it for a long time, agitating for his children to come and be a part of the award. So while the circumstances are not what we would have hoped, we're very glad to be here and to be in such wonderful company with the other honorees. Congratulations to both of them. Obviously, Dad loved Savannah and did a lot for Savannah, but he loved a lot of things. And I just thought we found, after he died, we found a typed list in his papers that said values. And he had written down his values. And so I thought that I'd just read those and that would probably be enough to tell you what you needed to know. Values, according to Arnold Tenenbaum: embrace life, be goal and vision oriented, live a life of integrity, care about people, constantly strive for balance in your life, be a lifelong learner, have fun and enjoy life, strive for excellence, share your success, strive to make a difference. Thank you so much for honoring him.
All right, Ms. Washington.
First, I'd like to say thank you to senior citizens for this honor, and to my niece Linda Johnson for coordinating for me. You know, when you get to be this age, you need the younger people to do for you, and I do depend on her for a lot of things. Over the years, I've tried very hard to encourage young people to develop to their best, to do what they were capable of doing and happy doing what they were doing. It was very encouraging today to see several of my former students that became principals and are now retired that came by to greet me this morning. I'd just like for people to remember me as having done the best that I could for them and to them. And over the years, I have tried to treat everyone that I've come in contact with like I would want them to treat me. And I feel that my life has been a good one. I'm happy with what I have done. And even today, I am seeing the fruits of my labor. People are calling to do for me, and the meals are just coming. Some days, 2 dinners a day. And Brenda can speak for that. And they have included Brenda. When they bring 1 meal, they bring 2. But that, to me, is an indication that I have done some good in these almost 91 years. Thanks again. I certainly appreciate your recognizing me for what I have done that I felt was natural for me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us. It has been an honor to spend time with you and to recognize these incredible individuals. Thank you again to our sponsors, our committee, and most of all to our honorees and their families for letting us share their stories. I hope all of you have been inspired to strive for your own life well lived. And if you'd like to learn more about Senior Citizens Incorporated and how you can help us ensure that all of us age successfully, please join us on our website or give us a call.